All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation still continues even during the break. Oliver Kajumba is still with us here, advocate of the High Court, Professor Alfred Omenya, urban development expert, and Professor Aman Manyora, political commentator, still with us, dissecting the numbers of the polls. And Prof, we were coming to you, and you're talking about the Mount Kenya region. Even based on these polls that you're seeing here,
right?
Kiambu, Ruto is still at 50%.
Correct.
Kirinyaga is still at 76%.
Correct.
Meru 74%.
Yes.
Muranga 65%.
Yes.
And Nyeri 74%. Tharaka Nithi 80.2%.
Yes.
Isn't that a significant number that could then tilt the scales?
In fact,
considering that his Rift Valley bedrock is still also there.
In fact, the numbers are not significant because there's no single. In fact, for the ones you've mentioned, he's doing worse than they did in 2017. In all of them. In all of them. In fact, in 2017, they're doing 80 to 90 in all the ones you've mentioned, by the way. And yes, these are the dynamics that we've actually been highlighting, that, lumping Mount Kenya together is actually not a very good strategy, especially for this poll. You can see the variation in Mount Kenya already. When you're looking at Kiambu, and the polls are saying, yes, that is 50-something. And then you look at which one is this? Nyeri is at 74, yeah. And Nyandarua. You see a very big variation. And Trevor, I believe that for the first time, people actually start seeing a bit of complexities in our election and voting patterns. The reason why we've not seen these complexities is because our elections have been compromised. It is as simple as that. People don't just vote because they come from a specific region. They don't just vote because they are owned by a particular politician. They don't just vote on ethnicity. You will actually see, I mean, if IBC does a good job, you will see that Kenyans vote in slightly more complex ways than we've been able to credit them for. In fact, in these polls, you'll see also very interesting things where for presidential, it is one individual, and for governor, it's a totally different one. So you can't generalize these things. I mean, at the start, they're gubernatorial. You'll see there that, in fact, they're highlighting Nairobi, where Sakaja is doing 47 and Igathe is doing 33. People may be up in arms saying, no, Azimio is doing much better in Nairobi. Azimio what? There is no Azimio in Nairobi. People are voting Raila or Igathe or Sakaja. And people are actually making nuanced choices. They're saying, yes, for this one we'll vote in this way for this reason. For this one we'll vote in this way for this reason. To complete my point, I believe that there are a number of things that are going to affect these votes that people are not seeing. One of them, of course, is the youth and how the youth are going to vote.
Who are on the Ruto side, 15 to 24.
Yes. Then, of course, you have the mature voters. Then we have women. People are assuming that women do not actually have, as a constituency, they don't have a rallying point and so on.
Who are also on Ruto's side. We are going to see that based on this statistics. Based on this one, yes. but it has actually been shifting. Then what people are not seeing is are two issues here. One of them is governance, and the other one is it's basically governance, and then, of course, the issue of the struggle for the change in this country. There are a number of people, and I interact with them just like my colleagues interact with different constituencies. I interact with constituencies that believe that there's a chance to consolidate the sort of gains that we've had in terms of fight for democratization and fight for the soul of this country in terms of good governance. And all those guys, they're older, they're not noisemakers, they're all on Raila's side. And what I'm saying is that, and that's partly why you're seeing, like, it will appear like there's so many undecided. So all these guys, in fact, it's our own Kenyan version of invisible voters. Yeah. They're people you don't see because they're not necessarily restricted to a territorial place or a geographical place. But they're there, and I believe they're going to be significant enough to actually tilt the scale. But even when it comes to the actual individual counties, what you're saying here is that you're seeing a lot of nuances. You're seeing a lot of nuances where incumbents, sometimes are being demonized, sometimes they're ahead, and so on. And there are all these local factors that are starting to affect the elections. And for me, my own happiness would be if IBC allows all these factors, you know, to be manifest, so that, you know, this simplistic discourse we've had, where people rig elections and then say tyranny of numbers. There are so many people in this region, very crazy turnouts that are not even plausible. In fact, for me, this mimics reality. What Ruto is doing in Central mimics reality, where it shifts from 50% in one place to, you know, 84% in another place, and 70s and so on. To me, that's real, and that's what's happening in the Rift Valley. Honestly, if Raila cannot do 90% in Siaya, I think. So how does Ruto end up doing 90% in Kikuyu land? You see, for me, this is reality. That even in Siaya, there are Ruto supporters.
Professor Manyora, let me bring you this. The demographics that Professor Omenya is talking about have actually been broken down by the pollsters. If you talk about the youth between 15 to 24, that is Ruto's demographic. If you talk about male, mature male, that is Raila's demographic. If you talk about the females, that is Ruto's demographic.
It's almost 50-50.
If you talk about urbanites, 51% of them are Raila's strongholds, but most of them don't even vote. If you talk about the rural people, those are Ruto strongholds. So wouldn't this then tilt the scale in favor of UTA?
What are the numbers?
Yeah, but allow me, please, to say just one or two things, because on this I'll just take a second. About Uhuru. Karoli says about Uhuru is a liability. What Karoli forgets to say is that the office of the president is very powerful. When that power is brought, when that power is brought to help you in an election, if he was on the side of Ruto today, Raila will be crying. That power. Now, the argument that incumbents has never helped anybody is completely out of space. Moi did not want, in 2002, Moi was not presenting Uhuru to win. Moi was introducing Uhuru to be processed for leadership, and Uhuru is a president. He's finishing his term this month. That's what Moi was doing, it was strategy. Moi wasn't a fool. He knew if he gave Saitoti, even Kibaki wouldn't have stood. Moi wasn't a fool. Even the youthful Mudavadi would have won. But he wanted Uhuru to be processed. So you get a caretaker president like Kibaki, put him there as Uhuru. Secondly, in 2013, in 2007, didn't you see incumbency making Kibaki retain the seat?
Yes.
In 2013, the system plus Kibaki, they were all for Uhuru. Otherwise, how do you explain Uhuru becoming deputy prime minister instead of Martha Karua? He was being, my friend, incumbency is powerful. Do not play with the power of incumbency and that support. It is powerful. In this last minute, the things Uhuru is doing will help Raila.
Let him finish.
Finally,
I'll come to you.
just also to tell you, people are also exaggerating Ruto's win in places that are Raila's. They want to assume that Uhuru had nothing. For your information, Uhuru had 49% of Bungoma.
Yes, true.
Please.
But how much is Ruto?
When you say, for example, Ruto could be doing so well in Ukambani, Uhuru had more than 25%. Check the figures. So all Ruto will need to do is to add another 5-10%. It looks like he's hit the ceiling. Just check, the facts are there. You think Uhuru got less than 25% in Ukambani region? The answer is no. Check. It's there for you to see. About 20-something%. In Bungoma, it was 49%, I remember. So, and finally, you keep going back to the ground. The ground is not young men shouting in the streets and riding border. The ground are actual votes. The grounds, when you put that issue of ground to test, on a number of occasions in the parliament, the people who kept talking of numbers were unable to produce the numbers when the numbers were needed most.
Can I speak?
Now, on the 9th of August, this so-called ground, they will be unable to produce those numbers on the 9th.
Okay.
And when they begin coming in, Trevor, I don't know what will happen to me. Now, to answer your question, really, all these things are factors. Women are factor, youth are factor, and all the demographics.
Exactly.
But I come from Kenya. and I'm a Kenyan. And I'm a political animal with a nose for politics and an ear on the ground, as Americans will say. I will tell you on the 9th of August, I may want to differ with Prof here. The people will vote based on 2 factors. Not women, not youth. That woman who goes to vote is first a Luo before she becomes a woman. Therefore, she'll vote as a Luo.
So it will be tribal.
That young man who goes to vote is first a Kalenjin before he becomes a hustler. So he's not voting because he's a hustler. He's voting where the Kalenjin are voting. Number 2, and this is for the critical people who will decide this election, mainly the undecided. Right. And the thinking voter, not every...
Right.
When you talk about thinking voters, we're not saying those other people are not thinking, but in the context in which I'm speaking, these people have reduced this election to only 2 related things. One, corruption. Because they know, however wonderful your manifesto is, however wonderful the so-called plan is, if you do not check on hemorrhage, if you do not check on theft of public resources, you will have no money to do any of those things. And therefore, corruption and its twin brother of who between Raila mother and the Ruto Gachagua, can you believe, will sort the main elephant and put it down, which is corruption. Many of the thinking Kenyans who will be deciding this election will be looking at the Raila team vis-a-vis the Ruto team and asking themselves, since corruption is killing this country, and since we must kill it before it kills this country, who between Raila and Ruto can kill corruption? My friend, there are no other considerations in this election.
Okay. So for you it boils down to those 2, tribal arithmetic and corruption.
Corruption and the integrity issue.
Okay. Kipchumba.
First of all, I need to remind Manyora that I am also from Kenya. And we are debating in Nairobi.
And I'm also from there.
Yeah. So, somebody joining the show might imagine where are these 2 people, other panelists from. Number 2, the side that Manyora supports have a serious issue with border people. Every time
I don't support.
They have a way of belittling from their party presidential candidates to Manyora. And it is true, the dynasty thinking that you must have somebody you must have somebody helping you for you to go there. It is unfortunate that it is coming from people who boast of credentials of reforms. When you are a reformer, you believe that things should happen because of credit and other things, but not because there is a big hand somewhere.
Yeah.
And when we talk about
corruption, aren't you underestimating the power of the presidential?
We are not
office.
Underestimating. We are here in Kenya, Trevor Ombija, and we know Uhuru Kenyatta. We have worked under Uhuru Kenyatta. We know what he can do. We know what he can do. As opposed to Kina Manyora, who are hearing Uhuru as a president, we know. We have dealt with the man. We know where he can help you and we know where he can't. One of it being, and I can say it on national television, he doesn't have the knack to go out and campaign. He has promised Raila Odinga for the last 4 years that he will take him to the mountain. We are 5 days to election. He has never held Raila's hand to the mountain. Number 2, he has gone to campaign for Raila in Nyanza. That one is, you can't preach to the choir. Those are people already on the way to heaven. What are we doing? So, is Uhuru Kenyatta helping Raila Odinga? Because if he was to help him, we will have seen him pitch camp in Sagana, for example, telling the people in the mountains, because if this was to be a place where we are getting Christians, there is a lot of churches that are needed to be built in Mount Kenya, not in Nyanza where he went to. So that's why I'm telling you, that is number 2 in terms of, there is a good discussion which people from Azimio or Azimio-leaning people tend to mud it with a lot of things. When we talk about corruption, Trevor Ombija, we need to talk about corruption in a proper manner without politicizing it. Number 1, in every cast of the Azimio campaign, you can't miss 2 things. The people who are named in Kemsa can't miss in that picture. Number 2, the people about Pandora Papers. And thirdly, which is most important, people in Azimio cannot tell you without blinking where they get their money to fund their campaign. We've been told by Abad that it is from the powerful office Manyora is talking about, the office of the president. We do not refuse, because when we push on with that thinking, they say in 2017, how did you campaign? And we tell them, even in America, there was a time Obama was asked, why do you use state resources to campaign? And what was the argument? You cannot, there is no time when a sitting president stops from being a president and becomes an aspirant. He is both until the end. There is no, the dichotomy cannot be drawn. So at the end of the day, this election will be decided, and each election has had its deciding moments. In 2002, it was breaking away from KANU. We needed a fresh breath of new air. In 2007, it was the issues that the 205 referendum brought forth that decided the election. In 2013, it was ICC. And in 2017, it was about what had Uhuru done, what was Uhuru doing, Uhuru had done, and was it sustainable going to the front. And in this election, is about the economy. Trevor, I know corruption is an issue, but the main issue, the deciding factor, even in 2013, corruption was an issue.
Yeah.
Martha Karua, go and watch the debate, and Raila Odinga, they brought the issues of land. They wanted to make land an election issue, but it was not. In this election, it is economy, because it is the economy that decides where you take your kid to school, what you eat in the evening, how many times you eat meat in your dinner per week. So, and all those ones will be decided. Do you have capacity to turn around our agriculture sector?
Okay.
Do you have capacity to make sure that the people who are coming out, the university graduates we are churning, get a place to settle in? So that is how the election will be decided. And what also pains me at times is to see Azimio, they want to talk about corruption, but they have not given us a way forward in fighting corruption. Even if we were to assume for argument's sake, Azimio won government today, Trevor, how will they fight corruption? Corruption is not like preaching Christianity, where you walk up and preach. You must tell us, these are the key performance indicators. This is how I will do to this institution to tweak it a little bit to make sure that we are fighting graft. Because corruption is ingrained in the DNA of a Kenyan.
Okay.
You know, when Azimio look at corruption, they look at corruption as something that it is just it is done at the exclusive club of politicians.
Yeah.
But as we speak now, there is a traffic police somewhere collecting a bribe. There is a Kenyan somewhere saying, give me this, I give you this.
Okay.
Are they in the ballot? No. The people in the ballot are just 16,000 Kenyans who want to be leaders. But what about the other corruption? So I'm telling you, at the end of the day, we need to demystify this corruption thinking and its influence in the election. We want to see leaders who will allow institutions to fight corruption.
Okay.
Not leaders who will come and fight corruption. We might have the Uhuru Kenyatta problem.
Let's talk about the corruption in a bit. And the President Uhuru Kenyatta himself made a scathing attack yesterday while he was in Kisumu. Listen to what he had to say.
Afadhali mzee ambaye ni mtulivu, ambaye hana haja ya kujaza mifuko yake, ambaye atachunga masilahi ya watu yake, badala ya mdomo tamtamu, 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 tamtamu. Lakini akiingia ni wale wa kufanya moja yako, nusu ya mwananchi, mbili yako, na tano yangu. Na mnawajua nyinyi, mnawajua.
What is the reaction to what the president said?
Yeah,
he didn't mention names, though.
No, he didn't mention names, and I think that's very interesting, Trevor. Now, just looking at that clip itself, that how can you talk about corruption in Kenya without mentioning names, and Kenyans know whom you're talking about?
Yeah.
The point, Kipchumba, is that your side, your optics have not been good. Your candidate has, in fact, is a politician who has had so many corruption cases in court and lost some of them, actually, compared to the rest. And then your team decided to actually highlight corruption in government, focusing on Uhuru, who is not a candidate. In fact, you've done a very poor job trying to convince us that the Azimio candidates, Raila and Martha as a running mate, have corruption issues. In fact, there you failed. You spent all your time telling us that Uhuru Kenyatta and his government, where your candidate runs as a deputy president, even as we talk, is very corrupt. And we agree with you. this is a corrupt government that must go home, and it has a president who's Uhuru Kenyatta, who's already going home, and has a deputy who must also go home with him. That is the optics of Kenya. We agree with you 100%. Corruption is an issue, state capture is an issue, Raila is not serving that government, Martha is not serving that government. You have failed to convince Kenyans that they have an issue. In fact, when you had the campaign, even the debates, you are very clear that the problem, even Rigathi brought it clearly, Deputy President brought it clearly, that the problem is state capture, and in fact is the president and his family, doing things. And we agree with you. The president is also saying, I've worked closely with DP, and he's a very corrupt man, and we agree with him. And we are saying, let all the guys go home, so that we have others who have not actually been accused either by your side or by anybody else of that corruption.
Yeah.
So optics in Kenya, if you speak about corruption or a corrupt politician, if today I came and told Trevor, there's some corrupt politicians that we should not elect, Trevor will answer and say, Alfred, why are you talking about Ruto that way? So basically, and people will vote on perceptions. People will not vote on fact.
Yeah.
They will actually vote on perception. And on this one, I think I agree 100% that Kenyans are going, your candidate is going to lose a lot of votes on corruption.
Yeah.
Purely on the basis of perception.
But
number two,
speaking of perception,
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Number two, the economy and the economic debate.
Yeah.
You look at the way both sides have handled it. Both sides have handled it quite incompetently. Let me put it that way. They're not putting concrete solutions on the table. However, what the Azimio side have done much better than the other side. The other side is saying bottom-up economics, and I don't know all these sort of things. The Azimio side is saying no. It's all about integrity. We have enough resources in this country. All the plans that we are putting on the table are doable. If we stop corruption, we'll get 700 billion straight away. If we stopped government misuse of resources, we are able to get another 600 billion, 700 billion. If we budget properly, which came from your candidate, if the projects we're doing are properly budgeted for, and we're not, we put fiscal discipline, we are going to save almost another 600 billion. So basically, what Azimio side is saying, and your side is agreeing with, that a lot of our economic woes are tied. They're twin brothers and sisters with corruption.
Yeah.
So if you deal with corruption, even if you got a cut as the country's president, there'll be enough resources to sort out our debt issues, and there'll be enough resources to bring the economy back to its feet.
Yeah, but Prof, speaking of perception, how do you explain this? So High Court finds regarding Gachagua 200 million, asked him to forfeit it to the state, but is not incarcerated.
Yes.
I know a house help who was sentenced to 2 years for stealing 450,000. If it was any of us here, if you're found with money that does not belong to you and the state asks you to forfeit it, you would be incarcerated.
True. Yes, I agree with you 100%, Trevor. We know that they've been sometimes politics, determines how some of these things are done, and some people have argued that this was a civil case and so on, and it wasn't actually. It is a criminal case when they're being investigated for money laundering and so on. Yeah. So
are the institutions also failing Kenyans then in one way or another?
So yes, I mean. The institutions are failing Kenyans, but I think the more important thing, again, and it's still, again, an issue of optics, and is the denial that's happening in Kenya Kwanza, that usually 2 weeks to elections, your running mate, who campaigns only around the mountain, because my mother in Nyanza doesn't know whom this person is, or fellows at the coast and so on, who campaigns only in that little place, is then convicted. I know the other side don't want to use such terminologies of money laundering and ordered to actually, in fact, and the money gotten back by the state, and you're saying no. It's not an impact. It has no impact. When I tell you that corruption is the thing that Kenyans are crying, crying about, you're saying no, but everybody is corrupt. You come in and they're always very clever with this interesting answers. There's also state capture. Uhuru is also doing 1, 2, 3, 4 things. For me, and I've said that is actually juvenile politics as it actually were.
Yeah.
Yes, Gachagua has his own issues there. Let him deal with them. But again, on the other hand, what has happened, and Prof here might agree or disagree.
Yeah.
What has actually happened? I've always wondered that why isn't Azimio attacking these guys on corruption? Azimio has been very soft. on these corruption issues and other governance issues. As a Kenyan, honestly, as a Kenyan, not as an Azimio supporter, I honestly don't think that the DP, and I'm not afraid to say that on air, and the running mate are fit to lead this country. They're not even fit to run as members of parliament. Really. I think Kenyans need to be angry enough to say, look here, these are people with questionable records. They are people with questionable records.
Okay.
Across time.
Okay.
Including these corruption issues. We are going to keep on accepting all sorts of crap, all sorts of nonsense, just because, you know, we are Kenyans, the guys are already candidates and that sort of nonsense. There are people, even governors here, there are very many governors that honestly, we should just move around with a gun and shoot them once Wajakoya takes over power and the constitution is suspended and we start hanging the corrupt ones. Even some governors, they joke around. How do you start explaining people like Sonko and people like...
Wajakoya the fifth.
Yeah, you know, running for office in this country.
Okay, Professor Manyora.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
let me quickly remove, dispense with this issue of 200 million. He doesn't need to be jailed because there's EACC, there's KRA, there's assets recovery. These fellows can ask you to explain what you have. If you can't explain, then the asset recovery comes in.
Correct.
And they go to court, and the court asks you to forfeit the same to government. That doesn't deal with criminal culpability.
Yes, correct, true.
That can come later. But just, you have that nice shot, Trevor, with your little salary from Royal Media. How did you get if you fail?
You are a man from the Lake, Trevor. You should know that.
If you fail, then we can take that shot.
But
Other people can now,
like that.
we can later chase you to try and find where you stole it. But first of all, we take it. The law allows that.
Exactly.
Now, I want to agree with Karori, that Senator Karori Kipchumba, that there are dirty people in Azimio. True. That's very true.
Very true.
And Mother Karua has addressed that issue, and many other people. You look at both sides and look, really, Raila is there, but he also has dirty people. Raila had that problem in 2007.
True.
But in order to change, you need power.
True.
So because you need power, you will keep company of certain characters. So Mother Karua tells us, he looked at the corner of Raila Odinga, and look at the corner of Ruto. He couldn't even look at Ruto's side. Again, just one look and that was enough. It's normal. It happens everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Now, Karori, Senator, this Pandora thing you keep saying, there are two things that I don't understand. One, the Kenyattas are a very rich family. They have money, even the ones they have admitted, and the ones we see in terms of business and portfolio, that run in billions.
If not trillions.
Billions, millions of dollars, and billions of Kenya shillings. The Pandora was about 30 or so million dollars. That is rubbish. That's not money. Secondly, it was not about the Kenyattas. First of all, it's not about Uhuru. It was about the Kenyatta. And it was not about stealing. It was doing what all businessmen do. The rich business people with lots of money, they do offshore investment. They play all manner of games.
Yeah.
They invest in states that have friendly taxations. The story of this is about a foundation. A foundation should not benefit you. I saw my university starting one. I said, God, do they understand this thing? Because if you start a foundation to help you and you think even the money there will be used to pay students for the University of Nairobi, you are wrong. That will be breaking the law of this land. These guys need to know these things, and they have lawyers. So what was being said here, there was a money in a foundation that was then put in a country, and in that country, you can use money in your foundation for personal gains. These are simple things people ought to understand. So there's nothing, first of all, to link Uhuru as a person to the Pandora thing. Secondly, the money is peanuts to the Kenyattas. And thirdly, it is not money that is stolen. Neither is putting money offshore a criminal thing. It is, in fact, what all these rich people in the world do. They keep money, they distribute risks. You know, because of political, they distribute risk. You will do the same if you are a multi-billionaire, you will not put all your money in Kenya.
Okay.
You will put some elsewhere. For Uhuru, it will be dangerous because as a president, the law is against that.
Correct, true.
But fortunately for him, it's not his money. It is the family money, not his. So let's leave that. But finally, which is very important, Trevor, you have to allow me. This issue of the economy is a very good thing. We all know. We are all suffering. We must change this economy. But we must also agree. We must look at the people who can change the economy. I agree with Prof here. What Raila and Ruto are saying, they're just the same things. None of them has any radical departure that can transform this country. None. They are avoiding the hard questions. True. They are not looking anything in the eyes. They are skirting around the big, difficult choices. So they are doing the same things, but none of them will see the light of day. If money that is made, all those things beautiful in agriculture, involve programs. Programs involve money. The money will be stolen. Yeah. So you must deal with corruption. Finally, you talk about why you do not believe corruption is the issue. Corruption is the issue because if you don't deal with it, you are done. You say Raila has no plan on corruption. There are just two things about corruption. Listen to Mother Karua, Trevor. She says, we will push to ensure that within 6 months, a corruption case is dealt with. Do you know why people steal? People steal. They don't steal because of institutions. Yeah. No, they don't steal because judiciary is not funded or is not independent. Right. They steal before they know nothing will happen to them. Because the case will be in court for 30 years. Yeah. If people knew, if this law is passed, the one Mother Karua is talking about, that you will prosecute corruption cases in 6 months, Trevor, hakuna mtu ataiba pesa. Hata ukiingia nyumbani na gari mpya, mama atakuuliza Trevor, hii gari itatuletea shida. We don't want, when we love you, Dad. Your children, Dad, we love you. Hii utaenda na 6 months. People steal because they know there are no consequences. If Mother Karua pushes for this 6-month thing, that alone nobody steal. And finally, on that, it is because the pair that we are looking at can be trusted to fight that corruption. And my friend, we still have dirty people. If it was a matter of the economy, a matter of pushing this country to the next level, the MPs we have in the parliament would not be there because it will be you there and him and I and him. Don't tell me that's going to happen in this election because nominations have already told us the people who have been nominated are the same criminals, same crooks, same wash. Speaking of same people, the country is not yet ready for what you want. I really want it. So
it's more of the same.
Please allow me. I hope and pray that this happens in my lifetime. That Kenyans will begin to vote without tribe. That Kenyans will look at Karori and say, this young man, we have seen him on TV. This young man is up. He has ideas. Let us vote for him. When that time comes, when I'm alive, I'll go to my grave happy.
But speaking of changing tides, and
just a quick rejoinder, Trevor. I've said it, and it's my conviction, is my belief. Corruption, and I'm agreeing with Prof here, corruption will not be solved by a plethora of institutions that are properly financed and so on. Corruption will be solved in Kenya through leadership.
Correct.
If you have a president and a deputy president who do not condone corruption, corruption will disappear. It is like saying there's theft happening in your house and you blame the police.
Yes.
Theft happens in your house because you, as a father in that house, as a mother in that house, condone it. You cannot come and say, if we build a new police station, then there'll be no theft in my house. In fact, by the time the corruption cases are going to those institutions, we are already accepting that we failed as a country. We will not fix corruption at all by actually trying to fix those institutions. So two things that I agree 100%, that it is leadership. We must aim at corruption-free leadership, whether it's an MP, whether it is a governor, whether it's a president. And secondly, there should be consequences for corruption. That's a small rejoinder I wanted to make.
All right.
There is something that, why at a personal level, Trevor, I don't take Azimio serious when they talk about corruption. Because for the last 4 or 5 years, Uhuru Kenyatta has told us Raila Odinga has been his advisor. And he has said it. There are clips, you can play them. But again, when they talk about corruption and why they want presidency, you wonder, Uhuru Kenyatta is the chairman of Azimio. When they sit in those meetings, what do they talk about? Because he's the chairman and they're saying corruption is an issue. He has never arrested any politician. If he says, because he insinuated that William Ruto is corrupt in that clip you just played, has he taken him to DCI? Or William Ruto is not above the law. So at times we want to be a bit serious. It is above sloganeering. We want to tell Kenyans corruption can be fought or no. Look, listen to what Manyora is talking about. You cannot encourage people to do what we call capital flight. You take money to a tax haven somewhere and you say those are peanuts. It is not how it should be. If that money was in this country, it will have done something. Number 3, Manyora, when you want to hide wealth, you don't hide it in a company, in a PLC company. You put it in a foundation, because the laws worldwide on foundations and this NGO-like kind of business is not so stringent. And we know why wealth is taken to a tax haven, because there is racketeering, money laundering and everything. So we do not, why, for example, doesn't a church bank its money in a tax haven? Because tithe is clean money where nobody needs to hide it anywhere.
That's what
but
you think?
When you put, for example, when you take money and you are the head of state, and I think also Manyora has not taken time to read the Pandora Papers. One of the beneficiaries there, the beneficial owner of some of those things, was Uhuru Kenyatta. And we are not reinventing the wheel. Let him read those things. It has been written there, his name. So when we say the family is what, and also when we talk about my good friend Rigathi Gachagua, and he has been asked, show us how you acquired your wealth. We also need to extend that question and ask ourselves, the Kenyatta should also show us how they acquired their land. Because if we are addressing issues about acquiring wealth, we cannot pick on the sons of Mau Mau and we leave other people. It must be at a neutral point. The other thing to Professor Omenya, when we talk about the promises Kenya Kwanza has given, those promises are what we call budget neutral. They are not introducing a new expenditure on what we already have. We are reorganizing the budget to make them fit what we want. And that is why you bring a manifesto. It's a document of intent that if you give me power to govern, this is how I want to proceed.
Okay.
And on fighting corruption, we still insist from where we look or from where we sit that corruption can be fought. But first of all, depoliticize institutions, whereby I do not have to wake up one morning and call Manyora for a certain case to move somewhere. Raila Odinga told us in Kwale, or is it in Kilifi, that I helped Amason Jeffa Kingi from corruption cases. Is that the kind of a person we want at the helm of power? No. Okay. Because we want a person who will allow institutions. If today Trevor Ombija is the head of EACC, you take cases to court on strength of the file, not on strength of the phone call.
Okay, talking about the changing tides of politics, there's something the Deputy President said earlier on when this whole charade of politics is happening. He talked about the people who are on one side, now on the other side, abusing the president and defending the president at the same time. This is what he had to say.
Nimuulize nyinyi watu wa Karatina, mumesikia sisi tukitusi rais? Si Joho ndiye alitukana rais? Si ule kina Babu Owino ndio wanamtukana rais? Si wale kina Junet ndio wametukana rais? Sasa sijui confusion imetoka wapi. Wale wakutusi rais ndio watu wazuri siku hizi. Sisi ambao tumekuwa tukisimama na yeye sijui nafikiri iko problem mahali fulani. I don't know where it is.
Doesn't he have a point, though? Because we were both in this country. Kipchumba reminded all of us that we are Kenyans. Yes. When the other team was against the president, and they did actually hurl insults.
No, you see, the reason why DP is making that point is because he knows that point makes sense. and yes, it's very, very true that these people have insulted the president before. And it's also very true that DP and his team are insulting the president now. And I think this then goes in history as the most insulted president. He's been insulted by his friends. He's been insulted by his enemies. He's been dared to his last day, to do anything and so on. And I think, yes, I mean, on a serious note, I think Uhuru will surprise people in his retirement. He might turn out to be a very popular president later on, maybe not immediately. And yes, I mean, of course, DP. My point though there is that DP actually has a point, but remember, like they say it all the time. I think politicians try to confuse us. That's partly why I don't waste my time analyzing these things, because that is exactly what politicians do. Politicians tell you what you want to hear, and they tell each other exactly what you want to hear. You know, it's amazing how these guys can be taking tea together, then they appear on a podium and they insult each other. And then they come back and take tea together. And then, so even these things of blaming people for insulting people here and there, for me, that is useless. There's no substance in those things. That's pure entertainment for the public.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a brief comment, of course, shifting away from the courts, that you know, DP and his running mate, you see, if you ask us that, why didn't Uhuru, you know, take action against these people? How does Uhuru take action against anybody? It is the law that takes its course. And the truth of the matter, is our Wakili. He knows our DP, of all DPs, is the one who has spent most of his time in court battling corruption cases. That is how the law actually functions. But of course, we also know that he held government at ransom, and as such, then even now he's holding the country at ransom. When he left, now that he's saying he's on the other side, but then he's still in government. And these are some of the issues that we're talking about, that we need fidelity to the law. We need people who respect Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Myself as a person, the day I feel I'm not able to do any work, I resign. But my DP as a person, the day he feels he's not able to do any work, he stays and gets paid using my taxes.
Yeah.
And thinks is okay. You know, the way these people have made the Constitution and the issues of integrity so malleable is nauseating. It really is terrible. In terms of my last point around this, in terms of what Azimio and Kenya Kwanza wants to do for Kenyans, I've looked at this quite carefully. I've read the manifestos and so on, and by now, and I've read it over and over again, because I was imagining that maybe somewhere in the corner of this manifesto there's some brilliant idea. There isn't. Kenyans should know there isn't. In fact, what I'm pleading with these guys to do, Kenya is a civil service that has been working from independence. Kenya has plans that we've had in place from independence, and even later on, you know, particularly in the NARC government. Kenya has a national spatial plan and a broader development plan that was generated during that time.
Yeah.
We had Vision 2030 and so on. I'm pleading with all these guys, abandon your useless ideas.
Yeah.
Go back to these long-term plans and visions the country had. The reason why Uhuru government has failed is not because of poor plans. So DP, having a plan alone will not solve the problems of this country. We have the plans. We just need decent human beings who do not steal.
Okay.
Who can do whatever they say, and in fact who can just implement whatever already exists.
Okay.
Just a rejoinder,
Yeah.
there is something Professor Menya said which needs to be rejoined, that William Ruto has been earning money without doing anything. I welcome the good professor to Article 147 of our Constitution, which states the duties of a president. Yeah. Every time Uhuru Kenyatta travels outside Kenya, William Ruto is at work as the acting president. Number two, there is a duty that he has been carrying out under the Public Finance Management Act,
Yeah.
chairing IBEC.
Yeah. IBEC, correct, true.
And we have seen it daily. So when he earns his pay, and then again there is a duty which he just needs to sit down and earn a pay, waiting for either Uhuru Kenyatta to get sick and die or something for him to take over. It is the Constitution. It is not our doing. The law says for succession of the presidency,
yes,
we need to have him there. And it is not a bad thing. Even governors have their deputy governors who, even if they don't do any other thing, just waiting for when the governor will die or be incapacitated to take over is work that they should be paid for. And back to the issue of...
Trevor, you see how we've been short-changed.
But that is the law.
Yeah.
No, but that is the law. That's Article 147.
Taxpayers
Yes.
be used in this manner.
Number two, on the issue of who abuses who, Trevor, in my community where I come from, they say there is no man who is pregnant. I live
Let's bring up your feedback, then I'll come to you, Prof, to close this conversation. Let's bring up a lot of feedback coming through. 5 days, the polls, a lot is going on. Bob Otieno Wino says, it is evident now all political players have restored faith and have confidence that IEBC Kenya will conduct credible elections, no suspicious complaints. That's my happiness. Okay. Maurice K says, in my opinion, Nairobi can offer a good base for opinion polls since everyone from all over the country converge here. Now, the rest of the regions should just be used to help an opponent know how they are gaining ground at their competitors' strongholds. Okay?
Another good one.
Chalu Woodrose says, elections comes and goes, but Kenya will still remain. Whoever wins the presidency is a Kenyan, and the will of the voters must be respected. Leaders will always talk with each other. What we are praying for is peaceful coexistence during and after the elections. All right? You call yourself Corporate March says online polls can never be trusted. This is because the end result can be manipulated. Also, people taking the poll are self-selected, which means it's heavily skewed towards people who are interested in a particular issue. Okay? Atanas Mavuti says, in my opinion, Ruto has maintained his strongholds in Mount Kenya and Rift Valley. He has eaten much into Raila's strongholds, Kisii, Western Coast, and Ukambani partially. Ruto is a much ahead of Raila. Okay. Maurice K says, the numbers changed since the day Raila named Martha while Ruto went for Rigathi. Martha is seen going out nationally while Rigathi is mostly rotating around Mount Kenya and Rift Valley. Okay. Let's see what else is coming through. Engineer Lazaro says, at the beginning, Ruto was competing against himself. Now he's going down at an alarming rate. This is the best moment for Raila. Siku ya nyani kufa, all trees falls. Let's maintain peace before and after election. Okay? Tyson says, I tend to agree that the polls do not cover extensively the numbers. For example, the polls for Busia County do not match what is on the ground. On the 9th of August, the real numbers will be out. Wayne Bryan says, Kenya Kwanza tends to divert more energy on President Kenyatta instead of addressing how they'll handle corruption. That is a disastrous at the moment. Kenyans must not elect corrupt leaders. It's that simple. Prof. Yes. Closing remarks, but first, here there's something going on at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Let's cross over there and hear what's happening.
Mary, Queen of Peace, intercede for us and all the citizens in this nation, that they may strive for peace during and after elections. It is in the mighty name of Jesus that we believe and pray. Amen.
Let us pray for our government. Mighty and everlasting God, we are gathered here as a nation of Kenya with the purpose of seeking your face, your intervention, your direction and protection in our election of 2022. Therefore, mighty God, it is our sincere prayer that as the Israelites say, that if you won't go with us, then we won't leave this place. You is our Alpha and Omega of this nation. We commit the government of Kenya before you, Lord, with all its arms, the IEBC, the police, and all other stakeholders who will lead us in this election. Father, into your thy hands. Father, we come against the powers of the devil that may arise to confuse the country of Kenya. Father, we rebuke it in the mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ. As we request the blood of Jesus Christ that was shed at Calvary to cleanse.
That's an interdenominational prayer happening at the IEBC. We'll cross over there from 9 to 10 a.m. and listen to what's going on there. It's a consultative meeting and a prayer for elections during 5 days to the polls. Prof, I was coming to you for closing remarks really briefly. We're running
just quickly to remind, to ask Senator here to distinguish between capital flights, between criminal things like money laundering and investment. Kenya is asking foreigners to come and invest here. Kenyans also,
but the president is investing.
Kenyans also invest outside this country. I know of many people who have invested in places like Dubai and South Africa. That's not criminal. And the beneficiary, if you start your company, you will put beneficiaries there. Those people you have put there are not the ones doing business. Now, including the Kenyatta land, Uhuru has no land. That issue was addressed 2013 debate. It's not Raila who raised it. In fact, Raila came to the defense of Uhuru Kenyatta. It was Martha Karua. And he said, let us be fair to Uhuru Kenyatta. He has nothing to do with this land. That was his father. So, but now, the one I wanted to talk about as I close is matusi. Ruto is talking about wale walitusi Uhuru Kenyatta. Waliita Kenyatta mlevi, wakamuita mwizi, wakaita Ruto mwizi, na hawa wakaita Raila kitendawili, mchawi, mtu wa kung'oa reli. Hiyo inaitwa utani wa kisiasa. But now compare with this. In a televised debate watched by more than 30 million viewers, the running mate to Ruto says Uhuru is suffering from inferiority complex. You see utani? He backs it up by saying he could not stand a strong deputy. What does that talk about the presidency? Please. They stand in a podium and say Uhuru Kenyatta wants to kill them the way his father killed JM. You see utani tena? That is a serious indictment. That cannot be let to go. So I just want to say, as we go this election, the remaining days, I hope the temperatures go down. Let our leaders tone down insults.
All right, Prof. 30 seconds.
Mine is very simple, actually, and I've been saying it. Let our leaders shift focus from themselves. Let them start focusing on these 54 million Kenyans they're going to lead. And mine is a quote, incidentally, with well, it's from the Bible, but this was shared with me by Alex Awiti, and I think it'd be nice to share it here. He says, it's from Philippians 2:3-4. He says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourself. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interest of others. This should be common sense, but I think I need to bring it from the Bible. Our leadership is all self-centered. And this is killing us, it's choking us Kenyans. These first few days that are remaining, at least for Zimio and Kenya Kwanza candidates, please think of us.
Kipchumba, 30 seconds.
I think mine is three things. To answer Manyora, that we are told Rigathi has been Uhuru's PA. Maybe he understands that thing, that attribute he talked about. Number two is that I think this is an opportunity for us to lower our emotional connection to politicians and to anybody vying for any seat. We need this country after politics. Politics is just for a day. It's like a public holiday. We attend Madaraka Day and we come back, we continue with life. Number three, the last point I will make for the show is that we need to start imagining life under the person we are opposing. It becomes simple. For me, I call it de-escalating political temperatures. If we need to have Kenya tomorrow, I start imagining how will my life be tomorrow if so-and-so is leading the country. That way you make it easier for everybody. But at the end of the day, I wish Kenyans well. I wish Kenyans to know that this is the opportunity. A Kenyan voter is the hero of the moment. He's the one to employ, hire and fire some of these people. And some of these virtues are fought in the ballot.
All right. Thank you so much for making time today. Oliver Kipchumba, advocate of the High Court, Professor Alfred Omenya, urban development expert, and Professor Aman Manyora, political commentator. Coming up next is Willis Bazuraburu. They're talking about hair transplant with Dr. Ashley Malde. All right?
I think I should wait for that one.
You need it.